Welcome back to T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. We've got a ton in store for you today. Can't wait to share it with you. But before we begin, I have a confession to make. I've been using a software that multi-tracks, records the interviewer and the interviewee in separate tracks, allowing me to edit them separately. But this particular interview was rescheduled from a previous time, and my software updated and altered the split recording to the Pro version, and I did not have the Pro version. And in retrospect, what I should have done was, pay for the upgrade and have split tracks. But this was discovered by me less than 3 minutes before we were scheduled to go live. So I decided to go with the single track recording. And unfortunately, Kris's voice was recorded at a much lower volume than my voice. And in order to balance our voices, we had to amplify a whole lot of background noise in addition to Kris's voice to match our voices volume-wise. So you hear me doing all sorts of things you should not hear me doing. You can hear the ice cubes clanking in my glass. You can hear me writing. You can hear my chair squeak. I have a very old chair. It squeaks a lot. I apologize. This is the type of growing pains that you're supposed to deal with in the first season. And here I am, almost through my second season, and I'm still making these mistakes. That being said, this may be my most fun interview I've yet to do on T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. I find it incredibly entertaining, educational, inspirational. The sound goofiness may not bother you at all. I know I'm my own worst critic. I just want you to know that I'm aware and it won't happen again. So now let's take you to my interview with Kris Howland from Heady Wax Fiends.
Kris, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really been looking forward to this, and it's great to finally have you on.
Hey, thanks, Trevor, man. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I don't think we've actually been face-to-face since maybe Bender Jamboree.
Yeah, Bender sounds right. I have mentioned earlier this season, or maybe I got edited. I can't remember. I've only been on an airplane one time to see Billy Strings, and that was Bender 2019.
It was a good one, man. I definitely had a really good time. That we kind of call that the before times.
It definitely was before times.
Like BC before COVID.
Man, I got to give you one quick example of how awesome Before Times, what it is Philmy Portraits. If any of you have been familiar with Philmy Portraits, is this artist that takes a photograph and then recreates it in a crayon or crayons. And it's, clearly not museum grade art in most people's opinion, but it's just awesome because of its simplicity. And you have a photo of you and Billy Strings from Bender where the look is act like you don't like me.
That was pretty good, man. Yeah, that's the kind of things you come up with like on day 2 or 3, right? Of a hotel festival in Las Vegas, of all places. It's like a buffet of everything that you may want to do. And I like that picture a lot, man. It's actually in a coffee mug around here somewhere.
It's classic. And, one of the things, I'm getting sidetracked and we haven't even started, but one of the things I feel like the reason we haven't seen more of each other is majority of my concert budget, at least in years past, has gone towards festivals. And I am a camper, not because I enjoy the comfort that an air mattress or solid ground provides, but it's the late night parties that I refuse to remove myself from. And you are a festival fan, but you enjoy the luxuries of a bed and climate control.
Yeah, that's very true. I've gotten kind of sick of waking up in a taco air mattress over the years.
If it's only a taco, you're doing something right.
You are doing pretty good if it's just still a taco.
It's the pancakes that you got to worry about.
It's the traveling for a festival. If I'm on an airplane to go to a festival, I'm probably going to try to stay in a rental. I've been known to tent it up here in Colorado locally, if I could bring more of my creature comforts. And I was raised in Ohio and had that kind of Midwest boy road trip attitude for a long time, where why fly? It's only 12 hours in a car.
I still have that attitude.
Yeah, and now that I live out here, I mean, 6 hours doesn't get you very far out of the state I live in sometimes. So look for me, though. I will be on site at a couple of festivals this year. One in Maryland, where we might be able to run into each other.
I didn't buy tickets if we're talking about the same one, and I'm assuming we're talking about the big one. I did get tickets for Grass Fire, which is, I hate, it's July 4th weekend. I'm afraid it's going to be 100 degrees, but that lineup, it's worth taking the risk.
Yeah, that one looks like a lot of fun. I tell people all the time.
Well, you said you're from Ohio. Where in Ohio? Because that's in Ohio.
I grew up outside of Toledo. And I spent some time kind of outside of Dayton in a small town called Wilmington for college. And then I spent some time in Columbus for college. And then when I was like 22, I packed up and moved west, where I was actually born and lived for a couple of years. My dad was a roughneck, so we kind of chased the oil until I was about 4, and then he packed up and went back to his hometown in Ohio. So I've been out here longer than I've kind of lived anywhere else.
So it's home at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
And out there, this is the Denver area. Where specific?
Yeah, so we live just a bit north of Denver in a suburb called Federal Heights. Yeah, for what I do and what I love to do and what really brings me joy, it's a really good place for me to live. Everybody plays here at least twice. We have iconic venues. Especially on this progressive bluegrass side, I've got to see a lot of kind of ascensions of younger artists come up either living here or playing here a ton because they can sell tickets.
I've discussed your area before in previous seasons and even this season, where it's kind of a hotbed, and for many, many, many years it was the only game in town when it came to progressive bluegrass, especially like Netherland and Boulder and Fort Collins and Denver, the whole area.
Yeah, it was. And then, I think it's evened out quite a bit, and that makes me really happy.
I would agree. Nashville would give it a run for its money for sure.
Yeah, Nashville, Asheville.
Absolutely, especially this weekend and next weekend.
Yeah, one of my favorite up-and-comers is out of Alabama, Mountain Grass Unit. And there's a tendency when you live in a place and you're seeing these bands of burnout. When you see a young band before their set list has really gotten to the ability to play a multiple night run, and you're seeing them over and over again, you kind of get burnt out. And I kind of appreciate the way the Denver scene is now, because I'm seeing bands with a greater amount of time between their live shows that I attend. So it's fresher, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Ironically, the episode I've been editing all weekend, we were talking about what a hotbed in the Southeast that I have exposure to. And of course, Mountain Grass is based just a few hours from Chattanooga. And they've come up a couple times now on T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. No doubt about it. They're one of the hottest bands on the scene right now. Kind of not trailblazing, but following probably in Billy's footsteps. They're going places.
Yeah, I mean, I had remembered seeing them as high schoolers probably during COVID covering like Dustin.
That was only a few years ago.
Yeah, in somebody's bedroom, right? Like they were kids, like babies. And I followed them a bit, and then I kind of lost track of them. And then we were at Renewal this past year, right? Everybody knows the story by now. Billy Strings had to leave because Allie was about to have their baby. And Mountain Grass Unit really stepped up in that moment. they remind me of a lot of things I love without being derivative. Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about them. I would say, like, if you break my music obsessions like into time periods or eras, they were like my Q4 2024 just absolute obsession, Trevor. Like, I was like coming back to them every day in the office, looking for new YouTubes, you know. I think they have a really bright future ahead of them. I really like what they're doing.
Well, if you haven't heard, you'll have to go back and listen to episode 2 of this season where I interviewed Josiah Nelson, and we talk about that festival specifically. And then episode 2, season 1, which I've mentioned several times since, almost grenaded the entire podcast. I reviewed Mountain Grass after seeing them for my first time, and I learned I am not a critic. I never want to be a critic again. And that episode took me almost 6 months to actually release because I cringe every time I think about that episode.
Well, you know, that's one thing we have in common is I hope nobody ever mistakes me for a critic, man.
We've learned the hard way on criticism and how it gets us absolutely nothing that we want.
No. You know, and that's kind of the theme of Heady Wax Fiends as a group, right? Is that I don't have time for what you don't like. I don't want to build a relationship with a person based on the things that we don't like. There's so much to like. So I've really, really tried to prioritize that post-COVID. And maybe my social media presence, or just my true opinions. Like, I just, you know, nobody likes everything. Everybody loves someone. Is a quote that one of my buddies, he probably stole it from somebody. Everything's stolen. But he said that to me a few years back, and it sticks with me to this day.
And you jumped into really what I wanted to get into, but apparently we just have so much to talk about, and we're like a dog with a squirrel running across the yard. Kris Howland, you are the curator, the brainchild behind Heady Wax Fiends, a all music inclusive vinyl record club. And one of the things that I think makes you so distinctive and unique, Heady Wax Fiends specifically, is what you just said, that no negativity. I don't care if it's, in my opinion, terrible music. I don't want to hear any negativity. All music's welcome. All albums, genres, doesn't matter what it is, it's welcome with Heady Wax Fiends.
Yeah, that's the number one tenet of the group, the record club, my life now. You know, there's things that get posted every day, Trevor, that are on my absolutely not list. And if you follow the rules and you tell me what the artist and title is because I'm going blind, I can't read my phone anymore, I'm going to love react that post. I really, really care about everybody's passion and appreciation. So if you can love something as much as I love my favorite things, we're solid. It doesn't matter about my feelings on it.
And let's dig into Heady Wax Fiends. This is, I know you were initially, and we won't mention any names, but you were initially in a different record club that you had some following in that club. Didn't work out, doesn't matter why. And that's kind of when the genesis moment of when you launched Heady Wax Fiends. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. You know, I had quit social media. It was sometime pre-COVID. The Billy thing was just blowing up, and I was having kind of an identity crisis. And coming out of the pandemic, you know, I wasn't doing anything. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I was really, really stringent in my staying at home. And I was in another group, like you said. I jumped back on Facebook because I needed some socialization. And that crashed and burned. So, you know, like a lot of great ideas, I was on the porcelain throne one day. And I said, you know, I can probably make my own group. And I can probably make it in like in my vein, if you will. That may not be the right term, but you know, kind of build it around my philosophy of music appreciation. And you know, even down to the name was like a joke. You know, Heady Wax Fiends.
True confession. I was involved with your group. I was one of the first few hundred you invited to the group. I'm certain of it. Doesn't matter what ranking. That's not what I'm getting at. But I was involved with your group for at least a year before I realized it wasn't Heady Wax Friends.
Yeah, that's pretty common, man. It just goes to show you how well your brain can trick you, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, what? It wasn't until there was a post saying, does anybody know this isn't actually Friends, it's Fiends? It might have been your post. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No.
I wanted to rob Dave Bruzza, right, from his Blood-Sucking Friends song title, where he has the R in parentheses, so you can read it either way. But I
Is it Bruzza as opposed to Bruza?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably saying
one of us is, but
yeah.
I want him on sometime, actually, because we're both diehard Cubs fans, and I'll finally figure it out. I'll let him tell us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was all just, Trevor, honestly, man, if it would have been 150 people that I've had in-person discussions with about music and or vinyl music, I would have been really happy with the group. But it's not anymore. It's taken off. I used to tell people at the beginning, like, if I would have known this name was going to be on merchandise, like T-shirts and stuff like that, maybe I would have thought through for a better name. But I don't feel that way anymore. It's so unique, and our logos are so unique. And now when I go to local shows, it's very rare I don't run into somebody wearing those words on their clothes, which is pretty cool.
Even in the Southeast, I see T-shirts at almost every concert or festival I go to. HWF represented.
Yeah, it means we're doing something right, I think. And it was a tough go at the beginning to get a bunch of jam band fans and really obsessive music fans to buy into, the tenets of the group, which is don't be a dick, no shitting on other people's appreciation. But it worked, and now it's pretty self-regulating. It doesn't take a lot of administration, and it's still growing, and I, as the founder, administrator, decision maker in the group, almost daily find music I had no clue existed. And I think that's the main goal. Is like you said in your intro to the group, there's no genre, there's no real focus, but some of my favorite albums released of the last few years, I absolutely would have never heard about or taken the time to listen to if it wasn't for this Facebook group.
Your initial group had a heavy bluegrass focus, but now it has taken on an identity of all genres, and you have actually, I guess now you release, distribute, do maybe even produce records with this club. It's more than just a Facebook group. Tell me about the record aspect of your own personal Heady Wax Fiends records.
Yeah, so it was 5 years ago, January. A member, and he's actually like my neighbor. His name's David Johnson. He lives right down the road from me. He was asking the group, like, what record club should I join? And, there's a lot. And when I say record club, I should backtrack. It's a vinyl record subscription club where you pay a fee that gives you music, right? And I'd been in and out of a couple of those, and I jokingly said, hey, man, send me money every month and I'll mail you a record. And I think 5 weeks later, we shipped 225 records to our initial subscribers. And kind of the way it works is I use a lot of contacts I've made over the years as a fan to come up with ideas of albums that are either already in production, and we'll just buy into that production, and then we get an exclusive color variant of that album. And
was that the initial thought?
Well, yeah, and the initial thought really was like at the beginning we were just buying what we could, and then we would put in like a signed write-up card of the album, or like a artwork. They're called OBI from Japan, which is like an informational sticker that wraps around the jacket of the album. But then by our fourth release, we were into to getting just, it had to be exclusive to the club. There had to be a reason why you would buy it from me instead of your local record store or direct from artists.
And that's where you got the variants, the exclusive variants.
Correct. Yeah. Starting with our 4th release in 2021, everything we've done since has either been an exclusive variant to the club or a complete exclusive to the club.
One, two. It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee and Georgia. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929381.
And as we kind of gain popularity, and this is all due to how good of a Facebook group Heady Wax Fiends is that it's by far the biggest group I've been in with industry folks and artists in it. So it just got to this point where the artists and the managers and the booking guys, they were paying attention to it, and they started bringing us opportunities. And what we're doing now is kind of what I was always hoping we would do, where about half of our releases a year now are what we call Heady Wax Fiends self-press, where we find an artist or a group. I kind of use artist as a catch-all. So we find an artist that should be on vinyl but doesn't have the backing to get there. And I jump in, I find that artist, I find the right project, and at the point of mastering it for vinyl to fulfillment, we pick up the tab for everything. So, like that Kyle Tuttle album that we did.
Labor of Lust, just a phenomenal album.
It was just going to be a CD digital streaming release. So we jumped in, we got it mastered for vinyl. We helped the artwork be redesigned for the larger format. We pressed the entire thing. And then in lieu of payment, we gave Kyle a big fat stack to sell at his merch stand. And that is going to continue to be my focus in the record club. I'd say an ideal year for me is 50% pressings like that, maybe 25% established projects that are happening with or without me, but that fit the group preferences. And the other 25%, which I'm sure we'll get to, these big represses that we've been doing. And the reason for that is we always want to be, obviously subscriber focused, or it's a bad business model, but we want to be known as the most artist focused, label record club, kind of in our subset scene that we're all in together.
Well, the artists that I've seen interact on the Facebook page have all had rave reviews of working with you specifically.
I think it helps that I did this on accident, Trevor. I had no clue what I was doing. I'm not a music industry guy. And
my podcast is the same way.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are.
I'm not an expert. I've never been educated. I don't even play an instrument. I just have a microphone.
Yeah, and I just have an audience. And I've had this ability, I guess. I don't really. It's kind of hard to talk about, but I've always had this ability to kind of talk about music without coming off pretentious, and an ability to people trust me enough to try something that I say they should hear, and that's kind of the core tenet of how this works.
Full disclosure, I am not a subscriber, and I have been tempted several times, and it's just I have fallen so deep down the bluegrass hole that I'm nervous about spending money, because money is tight. I mean, let's be real. I've been nervous about spending money on albums that I will never listen to. And perhaps I need an attitude adjustment. I actually just had a friend join specifically because of the January drop when he listened to me talking about Heady Wax Fiends in episode 1 of this season. And I don't know. I wish there was a bluegrass option, and I get why that's impossible at this point, because it can't be a money-making excursion, especially if you're funding all the costs of the vinyl itself.
You know, I tell people this all the time. Without help, it would be bluegrass, Americana, sad country, and sadder country. Because that's where all my contacts are, right? And I would love to run I've always thought of this idea of two subscriptions under the umbrellas, like quiet and loud. Whereas in the quiet, it kind of falls into what I just previously spoke about, and the loud is like, your funk, jam bands, rock bands, stuff like that. But the thing that we've realized is that it is a commitment. And, with anything like this, I tell people all the time, you probably shouldn't love all of it. I don't love everything that we've put out. You should love enough of it. You should find some stuff that you didn't know and now you love it. And, maybe just kind of be neutral on a few things, and then it's okay to not love a few things too. But the good thing we do is, especially on these big bluegrass albums, there's always some overages and leftovers from people who are afraid of commitment to pick up after our subscribers get the record.
Well, and I've been the recipient of several of those leftovers, and I'm smart enough to know that if it's one I want, I hit refresh every single day until it becomes available, so I can make sure I get a copy. But you have released some, not just new material. I mean, the Labor of Lust album is awesome. And a quick side note on that, shame on me, I was at the second show on his album release tour, so I bought the album directly from Kyle. But now that I know you actually pressed it, indirectly I got it from you, but it didn't profit your pocket. But I told Kyle to pick me out a special one, and he sent me one that was Pooh Brown.
yeah.
And I don't know if that is because he said, it's one of a kind, Trevor will love it, it's special, or maybe that's all the more he thinks of me.
It's hard to say. So what happened on that is the pressing plant that we use when we self-press, well, now we're working with two, but the main one is Gotta Groove Records out of Cleveland, Ohio. And they offer at the same cost as a black pressing a recycled color vinyl run. So when you make records, there's records that don't make the cut. There's trimming that comes off the outside of it when you press it, and they take all of that and they take some like colors and press random that way, and then they take what you got, which is everything put together, and sometimes it comes out Pooh Brown. I think in hindsight, Kyle probably would have picked black, but here we are. And, that Kyle Tuttle Labor of Lust release, to go back to it, that's the very first album that I personally self-pressed. Now, my partner, Eric Myers, I shouldn't go that much longer without talking about him. He had done some releases in the previous year with some bands local to him. He's from the Ohio Valley, just on the other side of Marietta, Ohio, in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And he has access to a lot of really great music coming out of that part of the country. But the Labor of Lust was the first one where I had to figure out how to make a vinyl record, and it's still one of my favorite things that we've done. And it'll always hold a special place in my heart, because what I tell people all the time is, you do a record with somebody like Kyle Tuttle, and you treat him right, and you take care of him, and you deliver on your promises, and you don't screw him over. He's the mayor of progressive bluegrass in Nashville. And
absolutely.
Now opportunities are walked to me by his friends instead of me sending cold call emails about stuff. And it was a real turning point for us in the club, for sure.
That's awesome. I never went through and decided what my album of the year was for last year. It just came and went way faster than I realized. But, It's on the very, very short list.
Yeah, same for me. As like a neutral observer, not putting any weight behind the stuff that we put out or did. It's fantastic. It reminds me of things I love, again, without being like a tribute to it. We have to take a second to talk about Glenn Brown and that producer's chair on that album. He's a magician, especially in our scene. I mean, this guy makes these bands that are road warriors sound like themselves in the studio. You know, I had a lot of fun with that one. Kyle's such a great guy, and I would probably say that he's somebody that I really look forward to working with for a long time.
That is awesome. I can't wait. Now, obviously, Heady Wax Fiends does way more than bluegrass, but what really got my attention, obviously, this is T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass, which is now just bluegrass. I should drop the progressive, but it's been around too long. You have gotten a hold of previously out-of-print vinyls. I know the S
You can
doesn't
call
belong.
vinyls.
You have gotten a hold of records that have been out of press for years and years and years, and managed to convince the owners of said records to re-release exclusively on vinyl, I believe, starting with Bella Fleck Drive. Is that correct?
That is correct. And this is just another really serendipitous story of the power of the Facebook group. So there's a company, they specialize in finding the licensing on stuff that's out of print or that maybe was like digital only stuff that like was released after the heyday of vinyl to get it to a vinyl pressing, and they're called Real Gone Music. A lot of people know Real Gone Music because they've been really big in like the Grateful Dead Dick's Picks repressings. But a couple years ago, they repressed the seminal John Hartford's Aerial Way. And a link had made it to the Facebook group, and it was from an independent record store that was selling their allotment of that repress. And then we figured out where it was coming from, and I posted the link from them direct. And then, we're called Fiends for a reason. That group just destroyed that availability.
Sold it out in like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was insane. So they were like, what the hell's going on? Wow, I think there might have been this idea that perhaps they were hacked or that something was wrong with the website. They end up finding...
Yeah, is there Chinese billing addresses?
Yeah, exactly. So they go to their analytics of their traffic, and they find that there's a lot of it coming from a post in a Facebook group by a guy named Kris Howland. And he, I think maybe there was a little trepidation there for a while. They didn't really understand what we were doing or who we were. But then Gordon Anderson, one of my really close friends now in this whole thing, he reached out and was like, hey man, that was impressive. We do a lot of music that I think people in this group would really like. We'll get you some promo codes and you can pre-announce some of the stuff in the group, and it works for both of us, right? Like I get more eyes on the group. He sells more pre-orders. And I was talking to him, and to tell you the truth, I was so close to not proposing the record club to him because I was so young in this career at that point. And I said, you know what?
And slightly intimidated, I'm sure.
Massively intimidated. I mean, you get to make aerial plane again? Like I'm doing, I at that point I was doing stuff primarily with my friends and my friends' friends, right? And so I shot my shot, and I was like, hey man, we have this vinyl record subscription club, and I kind of let him into the details. So he sits on it for a couple weeks and comes back, and he starts to explain to me, and I won't get really deep into it, the licensing process for some of my favorite records. Who owns them, how hard they are to get, what it takes to do. So he kind of gives me a list of labels where he said, you can have a complete exclusive for 24 months of pretty much any record under these labels. And Rounder was there, Vanguard was there, Flying Fish was there. And that's all I needed to start, Trevor. I mean, you know that.
So, more than enough.
Yeah. So I started to look at like who the biggest influences on my favorite music. That was definitely a determining factor. And the second factor was let's blow up the secondary market on some of these out-of-print albums that are really hard to find, some that I'd never bought because they're too expensive. So I came up with this list immediately, and it was four albums: Bela Fleck Drive, J.D. Crowe in the New South, self-titled, Rounder 44, right? The Tony Rice Unit, Manzanita, and Jack Watson self-titled. So,
and I was going to save the Tony Rice for last, but keep going.
Yeah, so I made the deal immediately for those four, and then I didn't want to put them all out at the same time or very close to each other. So, I decided that I thought maybe the biggest splash would be Bela Fleck Drive. So we started with that one. The reception was great. And then, I was, at the same time, the last time you and I hung out in person at Bender Jamboree in 2019, I was partying one night with a bunch of people. I had a poolside room, so we'd get some artists that would stop by after their sets. And my wife Chelsea and I were hanging out with Jared Walker, and he was playing us some tunes in the hotel room, right? And it's one of the best nights we've had. And, I'd had a couple
that whole festival.
Yeah,
Yes.
just everybody was equal, I felt like. Like, I was hanging out with artists as much as friends. And I'd had a couple cocktails, and I was telling him that, in my opinion, which I don't know anything really about bluegrass, that I'd always thought that there was a handful of albums that were really, really influential on my favorite bands. And those would be, the aforementioned Hartford Aerial Plane and Old and the Way. And he was like, yeah, I can definitely see that, because, he knew how much I loved Yonder. And I segued into Green Sky Bluegrass, and then I segued into their band. And he started talking about Rounder 44, and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And he told me that I had to hear it before I could have that conversation again, basically. And he actually wrote a little note for us with a little drawing and the set list from that night. And we made a shadow box, and we got home of all of our mementos of that. And it's hanging up right next to our bed. So for years, I'd walk past this thing and it said J.D. Crowe in the New South, parentheses, Rounder 44. So I was like, I'm going to do that one for Jared. And I had him write, expanded new liner notes for it. So that one was a really big get for me personally. And, there was this, resurgence of Tony Rice repressings happening that we kind of spearheaded with grabbing those rights to Manzanita a few years earlier. And I'd say without a doubt, to this point, it's the most popular thing we've done.
Well, all right. True confession. You just gave one that you didn't know what Rounder 44 was. And in fairness, in 2019, I probably didn't either. I have really started to dig down older bluegrass in the last, probably since post-COVID. But I had never listened to Manzanita start to finish. I have been waiting. I've heard every song on Manzanita. I mean, Tony Rice, he is a guitar god. Everybody knows Tony Rice. But I've never had the opportunity to sit down and listen to Manzanita start to finish. And I always told myself, not until I get a hold of it on vinyl. I'm going to listen to that album for the first time, start to finish, on vinyl. And when you re-released Manzanita, and I was able to get a copy of it, I've been so intimidated to sit down and spin it, because I feel like it's, you only get one first time. I got to plan it out and figure it out and almost turn it into a vacation day, because I'm so looking forward to hearing Manzanita start to finish on vinyl, and I owe it to Heady Wax Fiends.
That means a lot, man. Thank you. It's a monumentally influential album on our introduction to bluegrass, right? And it was only pressed in 1979 when it came out, and it was getting very expensive and hard to buy. And I think our goal on these represses, of these big represses, right, is to put out albums that fans of yada 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 fill in the blank should know in a clean mint sealed edition that's modernly fairly priced.
That's not $100.
Yep. And I think we did a great job.
I assume. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm still waiting for that perfect moment in time where I can make sure I'm completely uninterrupted, turn the phone off, be in isolation with zero risk of interruptions.
It's become one of my favorite albums, and I probably hadn't listened to it all the way through until I started collecting vinyl, in the early 2010s. And there was a point, before his passing, where all these albums were pretty readily available, but they're what I call well-loved. They've been played a lot, and they're older.
Yeah, they're 30 and 40 years old or more.
30 and 40 years old, and there wasn't as much as an emphasis on this archival cleaning and collecting as you see now, so they were beat up. It took me, like the one that's coming out actually in March 2025, my ode to Billy Strings is Doc Watson self-titled, and I've had 6 or 7 copies of that before I got one I really liked, and then I immediately made it again. So it's like
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're okay. I mean, it's really fun to dig these things back up. It really, really is, and it's really fun to convert people that thought they knew what bluegrass was, but they hear a couple of these. Let's face it; these are all like a little bit more progressive bluegrass albums, anyways, right? It's like kind of
absolutely.
Like some of them, 44 is a kickoff, maybe, and then. We've kind of we've picked our points of some that are have kind of carried that flag or carried that torch after that of being a little more progressive. And I'll give you an exclusive. I know this is going to be a while before people hear this, but in kind of a full circle moment, I agreed a couple weeks ago to put out an exclusive variant of John Hartford Aeroplane.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm going to announce it on my birthday. And it'll be a pre-order, and I think we're going to probably ship it to most people with that Doc Watson record. And it's been offered to me before, but like I said in my previous story, we did a very good job of getting that to everybody, before we started repressing these other albums. But it kind of got to the point where I was like, well, I have to do a John Hartford record. And it's a bit of an ego project, and it'll sell well. But it's okay if it takes a while. And another fun.
It's John Hartford. It's a rite of passage. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the trunk of my family tree on that side of my music, right? And I was looking at different colors and different ideas. One of the things I really try to do is get really cute and creative with the vinyl pressing color names. And Real Gone Music had done theirs an opaque white, which was nailing the aeroplane theme, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
But I went ahead and picked this really kind of fun Cubs blue, and it's I got a blue hat, colored vinyl. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I may have to buy one, even though I have 2 original pressings. Maybe not the very first pressing, but I've got 2 of them. Now I'm going to have to buy just because it's Cubs blue.
There you go, buddy. I have an embarrassing amount of pressings of the album at this point. So, yeah. Some albums. There's definitely albums where I've bought better copies and given an old one away, or tried out different pressings from different years. But the Hartford stuff I've never seen I've just kind of hold on to it.
Quick side note, the Hartford album, I believe it's the one with the steamboat on the cover. In the liner notes, there's for booking information, call. And it just, what a wild time to be alive. That you could potentially just call up John Hartford's booking agent and be like, hey, I'd like Hartford to play my class reunion next weekend.
Yeah, you know, and John Hartford is the first, maybe not the first, but probably the biggest example of me falling in love with something because of something else I loved, right? So my John Hartford obsession is actually directly related to my Yonder Mountain Stream Band obsession. You know, without one, there isn't the other. But unlike a lot of people, I went backwards because, you know, bluegrass wasn't something that I heard growing up. It wasn't
so many Hartford covers I thought were Yonder originals before I knew better.
Big same, yeah. And, you know, it was fun to fall in love with this guy. It was all already out there, but definitely collecting vinyl was a big help to, you know, my love for John Hartford, my love for Doc Watson, a lot of these, you know, I like to say, like, a good band makes you listen to everything they've ever done, but a great band will make you listen to everything they've ever done and why they did everything that they did.
All their influences.
Yes, exactly. And those massive bands in my life I have given me so much more than what they ever could because of going backwards from them to their influences. And I think it's reflected quite a bit in the curation of the Heady Wax Fiends record club.
Well, it certainly sounds like a parallel to my life. You know, I started T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass in 2010, and I wanted to have given traditional bluegrass the time of day. But then within the last 3-4 years since post-COVID, I'm probably 75% traditional to 25% progressive in what I listen to.
You know,
it's working backwards.
Yep, and I used to tell people all the time I only liked LSD pedal stomp bluegrass, which is like, you know, the plugged in, you know,
sure, get trippy with it. Yeah.
But now I don't know anything about the genre because there's so much to learn, and I tell people all the time I know what I like, but I don't know as much about the genre as I do about some others. And I think that lends an advantage to me in what I'm doing right now because I don't have a ton of preconceived notions about what was right or wrong, popular, unpopular, successful or not.
Ignorance is bliss when it comes to music.
Amen, brother. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm learning. And, you know, and I would say that it's both a very intimidating and difficult genre to collect vinyl to, but also a very easy and cheap genre to collect on vinyl. I mean, I've pulled some of my favorite albums out of my collection for $3, $4, $5 on some of these, you know, like some of these records are getting 60, 70 years old now.
And there's plenty of them that are being found for free. Somebody passed away and is getting rid of an entire collection, and people are like, what? Look at this gold.
Yeah.
One of the many, many, many things I love about bluegrass. So I know Heady Wax Fiends has is it their first gathering coming up in Nashville, first weekend in May? What's going on in Nashville in May?
It's our first official meetup that we're going to have, and we're going to do it the first weekend in May. The idea is to get people together in both fantastic music and kind of in music industry towns and vinyl towns. So it seemed a no-brainer to start in Nashville. So one of our artists that we've put out a ton, John Craigie, he is a folk troubadour in the same vein as all the greats. More contemporary would be Todd Snyder. The man plays a song, tells a story, rinse and repeat till the end of the show. He's going to be Lindsay on May 1st, and then we're going to tour a pressing plant while we're there. We are working on a couple of alumnus shows that we're going to help present and put on in Nashville while we're there. We're probably going to end up with an in-store at maybe the best record store in the country at Grimey's. And we're all just going to, have cocktails together, talk about music, see music, and we're really hoping that it's something that lands and works out, and then we can start kind of expanding them every year. There's so many great music towns in this country.
Well, I'm sure you could pull it off in Denver too.
Yeah, and it probably won't be next year. I think next year I'm really looking at Austin or NOLA. There's just so many known and unknown great towns in our country for music and in indie vinyl shops, right? Saving the music store is a really important thing to me. And Heady Wax Fiends and the record club try to be really massive supporters of the independent record shop. That's what I grew up going to, and my generation has kind of lived through every advent of technology in the music scene, and a lot of us went back to our introduction, which was vinyl. So, look for us. We'll be living in towns like Austin, New Orleans, Portland, Denver, anywhere where we can have a good time as music fans and vinyl collectors.
Well, that's going to be fantastic. I hope I can make it. I've got a pretty big conflict that weekend, so we're going to see if we can't split it in two. A festival that I'm sponsoring.
It'd be great to see you again.
Oh man, I hope I can make it. But yeah, I'm a sponsor of a traditional bluegrass festival that weekend. Yeah, Boxcar Pinion. Have you ever seen the bluegrass bumper stickers? Forever Bluegrass. Probably see them on instrument cases. That's the festival that is the same weekend in northern Georgia.
Gotcha.
So I may do like a Friday there, and then or a Saturday in Nashville. We'll kind of see when it gets closer. I may do one day in Nashville and one day at that festival, and we'll just figure it out. Well, all right. At this point, you know enough about Heady Wax Fiends to know it's got to be a really difficult. It's got to be a labor of love. There's not likely you're turning a profit at this point, but is your dream, aspiration, goal to turn it into a career?
Yes and no. This comes up, ideas about it or viewpoints of it, is the fact that it doesn't put or take food off of my table allows me to take bigger chances. As in, I don't want to homogenize this thing to survive. But I wouldn't be against it as long as the creative control stayed. And I think we see that in the industry quite a bit, that people hope that works out and it doesn't. They go to a bigger label or they go...
And then they're following their rules from above, not what the heartstrings is tugging on.
Yeah, so, the idea of investors is a double-edged sword to me. It would help us probably be bigger, but I don't really want anybody to tell us what to do. But like I said, I think right now I can introduce people to something that they never would have heard without us, and I'm not sure if it's the same ability is there if it's my only career. But what it does right now is it just enhances why I work at my day job, is to buy music, go to concerts, pick up merch, talk to people about music. And it facilitates that at a different level than just being a fan.
Well, I can relate. This podcast is to supplement my day job, so I'm not quitting.
Yep. Yeah,
well, if you ever go listen to the back episodes, my very first episode, I talked about my father, and he essentially did what you are doing for the Kingston Trio and popular folk music. But his, in my opinion, mistake was he quit his day job and went full time right out of the gate, and it's a hard living.
It is. It's a really hard living. The margins are low. The wrong people make the most amount of money. It's fraught with people who got into it for the right reasons are into it still for the wrong reasons. And that's something I thought Yeah, I think, in general, it's a really cutthroat industry, Trevor. I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls out there for everybody from the talent to the ancillary people like us. So I just want to protect my love of everything, and that would kind of be a concern of going full time too, is making business decisions and not art decisions.
I'm a semi-amateur promoter, and people say, why don't you go full time with it? And I said, because it's a hell of a lot more fun to lose your ass and have a great party than to lose your ass and not pay your bills.
Exactly. I mean, my day job's not going anywhere. I can do both. I'd say at this point, the record club is probably more work than my career that I've been at and for, half of my life. So I need that balance. And the other part is I really need someplace to be every morning. I don't want to get wrapped up in that rock and roll lifestyle, man. And
I can wait till tomorrow. I'm hungover today.
Yeah,
I can appreciate that. Okay, I got a couple more things that I want to make sure we talk about. What's the plans for Heady Wax Fiends in 2025 and beyond? Do you have a big goal that you can talk about at this point, or are you taking it one day at a time?
Really one day at a time, but my goal personally in 2025 is to have a bigger exposure locally. So I've started to present shows locally from our artists that we've worked with. I'm going to start sponsoring some of the big record expo swap shows. And then the really fun thing that I'm still kind of figure out is a Denver Heady Wax Fiends meetup release party, where if you're a subscriber, because it's a big base for us, I'll bring your copy of that month's release to this event. We'll sell some records, buy some records, listen to the new one, do some raffles for some fun stuff, and just socialize. And I'm really hoping that that's successful and something that gets me out of the house once a month to hang out with people like myself.
That's exciting. It's exciting to watch Heady Wax Fiends literally grow from just a Facebook social group to what it's become. I mentioned previously, I feel like you're doing the Lord's work by resurrecting some of these classic vintage bluegrass titles and providing them to the public again. Oftentimes, myself being a perfect example, hearing it for the first time. It's amazing. I've got another question for you, which is a two-part question. This is getting towards the end here, and I know we disagree, but I am under the impression the entire first pressing of Turmoil and Tinfoil, Billy Strings' first album, was pink, and you believe that there's also black vinyl on the initial pressing. Is there any evidence out there on the web or otherwise that would reflect one way or the other?
I think just us arguing about it on Facebook. Look, my memory is not great from pretty obvious reasons, but in my memory of this time, there was a bunch of items available on the Kickstarter, including the one you have that I would do just about anything for, which is a test pressing of Turmoil and Tinfoil. There was a Billy Strings record your voicemail message on the Kickstarter.
That would have been amazing. I wish I would have done that.
Yeah, in hindsight, didn't I? And you know, I cover, but I seem to remember an availability of the black at a cheaper price, but you know what? I could be wrong. And I think that I knew I was right until I started making records, and then I realized I have no clue. Honestly, Trevor. I mean,
well, and I have no evidence outside of my own recollection that I swear on that Kickstarter, it wasn't, I don't think it was Kickstarter, but that only Pink was available.
Yeah,
but,
and you're right. I don't think it was Kickstarter, but it was some kind of crowdsource, right?
It was a crowdsource. And,
yeah.
you know, just to date back when, I mean, you and I both jumped on the Billy train very early on, before Turmoil and Tinfoil even. And yes, I did get that test print. And I went back, because we talked about it on Facebook. I still have the email where I got the test print. I bought number 4 of 5 at 10 or 11 minutes after noon that day. And it started at 9 a.m., so well over 3 hours after it was released. And I almost didn't buy it because with shipping, it was like $75. And at the time, I'm just like, oh my gosh, an autographed test print, $75. I don't know if that's worth it.
No, if I knew then, no, I would have bought 5 Pinks and a test pressing. I think it would blow people's mind to know like, how long that 100 run of Pink was available, autographed by Billy himself. I mean, those days, it was... The thing I think I've kind of realized about this Billy Streams Ascension is that the passion hasn't changed. The appreciation hasn't changed. It's just grown to more people. And you have to respect that. But yes, I remember the long wait for Turmoil and Tinfoil. I remember people being a jerk to him on Facebook because they were late. I remember people being a jerk to him on Facebook because it was like his aunt packing them all and shipping them out.
Yeah.
Talking about.
Yeah, it was somebody in the family.
It almost sounds fake, you know?
Yeah, what a wild time to be alive. I had that test print for a good 9-10 months, and I was spinning it regularly. Like, I didn't even know any better. Like, it's just a vinyl. And I finally replaced it. I bought an additional Pink one at the merch booth like 9 months after it came out. So I just assumed they were all Pink.
Yeah, and it's crazy what it's become. You know what I mean? I mean, I saw so many iterations of that idea previous to Jared joining and it kind of locking into the 4-piece for so long, you know? And I tell people this all the time, like, I was at a show in Denver at this barbecue joint, and I don't think it was sold out. I think that the venue is a fire marshal capacity of 150. I probably met 2,000 people who said they were there now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought tickets day of for a long time. Like, I'd walk up to the box office for years and grab a ticket on my way in. And
there was at least 2 shows I went to early on when Billy manned his merch booth.
Yep, same.
And he wasn't good at it. He had no business running his own merch booth.
No, he's really good at...
How much is this? Whatever.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, he's really good at music, and then fortunately he's found really, really good people at the rest of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, he couldn't be doing what he's doing without his team.
Yeah, so that's part of the appeal and the charm for me. And we just probably 3-4 weeks ago he played what's called the Ball Arena in Denver, formerly the Pepsi Center, which I still call it because we have that tendency, which is our NBA NHL venue. And that was a trip, man, to stand there. I had good seats on the floor, and I spent a lot of time watching that many people watch that band. And it was crazy to think about how many of my first venues would fit in that venue.
it's mind-blowing. And I think we all knew he was going to be something else, but I don't think any of us knew what that meant, and it's still evolving as we speak.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's next.
Kris, I'm so glad we had the opportunity to get together today. It's been so much fun talking to you. You have come up in previous episodes, and I'm sure Heady Wax Fiends will continue to come up in episodes in the future. Would love to have you back one day. I can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's just been awesome, and
I'd love to come back whenever you'll have me.
Let's do it, my friend.
Thanks, man.
All right. If you're still here, you probably, like me, decided the audio gaffes was worth it. I sincerely hope you enjoyed listening to T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. I'm Trevor Shaw. If you liked what you heard, come back next week. Don't hesitate to leave a review. I don't think I've got any reviews yet. You could be my first review. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody that you know that might enjoy T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. Share a link, let them know about it. Would love to have them part of the fold. You can always email me at progressivebluegrass@gmail.com. And now the motivating factor of T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass, a word from our sponsor.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee and Georgia. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929381.